with you?
It seems like every time I'm in the mood to read, I'm either tired or, in our case here recently, sick, or my mind will wander and I just can't focus on the words. I just wish sometimes when I'm tired or not feeling well or just can't concentrate that well, there's a way I could lay down, relax, and still enjoy my book.
There is a way you can do that.
You're talking about the sponsor of this video. Let's look into that. Today's video is sponsored by Audible. Audible is the leading provider for audiobooks and more. With thousands of titles to choose from, including exclusives you won't find anywhere else, there is something for everyone. Whether you are looking for something new or an old favorite you have read or listened to many times, they have it. You can listen anywhere with the free app, and it can be downloaded on all smartphones and tablets. You can download titles and listen offline, anytime, anywhere. You can listen across devices without losing your spot. If you can't decide what to listen to, no worries. You can keep your credits for up to a year. We love to listen to audiobooks and podcasts on long trips, workouts, or cosplay crafting, or even when we're gaming. It helps pass the time and can also be relaxing. Escape into the world of an audiobook by using our link here, audibletrial.com/geeky saying couple. You can get a 30-day free trial. The link is down in the description below. Hope you guys enjoy the video. What is up, everybody? It's Kanan.
It's Jessie.
And we are the Geeky Saying Couple, back with an all-new RWBY video. Now, this idea came, I've actually been thinking about doing this for a while, because I always see on Twitter, people will list the RWBY volumes from their most favorite to least favorite. And I've done that before, but it seems like mine flip-flop. One volume that was low on the list sometimes makes its way back up, but this one will probably be concrete our list of the RWBY volumes, because me and Jess have both talked about it, and I kind of did mine and asked her if she agreed, and for the most part we kind of have the same opinion. And going back on that, please remember, this is just our opinion. This is just for fun. We're not here to make anybody mad. If one of the volumes you prefer is lower on the list, and if one of our volumes that we like the most is lower on your list, that's totally valid. But I'm sure someone will get mad. But I put this on a poll recently, and it technically placed second, because it and the other video idea tied, but the other one was in the lead for most of the time, so I did that one first. So yes, ranking the RWBY volumes was something that people really wanted to see us do. Now, if me or Jess cough during this, we've both had the cold for the last couple of weeks, so we're pretty much better. We just have this lingering cough. So please remember that even if a volume is low on our list, there's still parts of the volume we actually really enjoy. As a whole, we love RWBY. So yeah, like I said, if a volume is low, it doesn't mean that we hate it. It's just there's not much in it that there's more stuff in later volumes that we enjoy more, or, vice versa. So I guess since there's only 8 volumes right now, 8th least favorite volume goes to volume 1. Now, why is that? Well, I have kind of found that really in any series, whether it be anime or even sitcoms, and you might be able to help me with this, because in terms of Sailor Moon, the first season does kind of pale in comparison most of the times to later seasons in the series.
It does. I mean, there's sometimes I'll want to go back, especially even Sailor Moon, I'll want to go back and watch the first, season.
Well, yeah, because it's the beginning.
And then there's other times where I'm just, okay, well, I kind of just want to move on to the next one already. Like, it just, you have, it just, I guess it depends on your mood, but yes, it does kind of work out that way, but I mean...
And, like, don't get me wrong, there are parts of Volume 1 that is still my favorite parts of the series. Team RWBY versus the Nevermore when they become a team, that is still to this day one of my favorite fights. But Volume 1, you can definitely tell, was during a time when Rooster Teeth was not on a very big budget. And, like, there's some parts of Volume 1 that kind of irk me. Like, I don't like that, and this is mostly just for Yang being my favorite character, I don't like that she gets the least amount of screen time, it seems, in Volume 1. Like, Ruby gets the part where, she's attempting to be a leader. Then you have Weiss not liking Ruby being the leader, and their whole dynamic that goes forward through Volume 1. You've got Blake and her thing. It just seems like Yang kind of just is a spectator for most of the volume, and for most of it, she's just Ruby's older sister. It just seems like in Volume 1, Yang kind of got put to the background, where she's a main character. Her name is in the title, and just it's almost like they didn't know what to do with Yang at first, which is totally fine. Things progress as things go on. But, a lot of people feel like Volume 1 is very outdated, which, I mean, yeah, it was in the early days of the show, but...
it's where it started. It's where, it was a web series before it was anything else, and that's another thing.
And Volume 1 screams web series, the way the episodes go and all that. But
going from this to where we are now... Like,
it's fun watching the series progress from Volume 1.
But the fact it going from a web show to a huge, fandom now.
Yeah.
Like, it's just an awesome thing to know, to see, So it's one reason why I do like Volume 1 is just because that's where it started.
Yeah.
But then again, it also
it gets better.
Yes, it also that's why it ranks so low, though. It's just because there's not much there.
Yeah, Volume 1 screams Season 1, because it spends more time introducing the characters, and we all know the plot of RWBY would not really get going until much later. Of course, there's a lot of people who don't like that Jean got so much attention in Volume 1, but it was there to build him and Pyrrha up a lot. Which they've not really done since Volume 1. Seems like Volume 1, they gave Jean his first few episodes, but ever since then, they've not really done that for any of the other characters. Like, if they do, it's still keeping with, like, involving Team RWBY. But yeah, Volume 1 just falls into that category of being a typical Season 1. It's kind of like Legend of Korra. Book 1 is... on a lot of people's not so favorite list, but it's the same with like Dragon Ball. Season 1 of Dragon Ball is not my very utmost favorite. I think it gets so much better going on. Same way with Dragon Ball Z. The Vegeta arc is good, but there's so much better to come on.
It's easy for that, though, for like between that and also like Sailor Moon, it's easier to watch like Kai and Crystal because it's not as
bloated.
It's not as long, and it kind of just gets to the point a little faster, so it's easier to watch. Whereas this, there's really not that. It's different.
Volume 1 is anything but bloated with how short some of the episodes
also
are.
The thing with John is they also needed to put him in the placement of a secondary team leader.
Yeah.
So he needed that, and then there's not really a place moving forward for stuff like that being
now that the main plot now because the earlier volumes definitely scream
moments that they focused on, but it's not like here.
Well, yeah, because like the early volumes 1 and 2 and some of 3 were very slice of life like, with some action here and there, but stuff like some of the stuff that happened in those earlier volumes really can't happen Volume 4 on, because it became a much more serious, darker show.
I wish all the cases were still black like this.
Yeah, they only did it for volumes 1 and 2, and then
And the steelbook.
yeah. So yeah, that's why volume 1's kind of low on our list, just because it's a typical season 1 of a long-running show. It's great in its own way, but the show gets much better in terms of a lot of things going forward. And going back and watching it, you know that.
Yeah.
So sometimes it's like, well, let's hurry and get through volume 1. But that's,
Which isn't hard, but
well, that and like, it's the same with anything. Oh, I'm going to watch Dragon Ball. I've got to watch the Emperor Pilaf saga first, to get through it. But moving on, the next on our list is Volume 2. Now, I've come to learn that a lot of people didn't like Volume 2 in a lot of ways. Now, of course, there are parts of Volume 2 that we both love. Jess's favorite episode in the whole entire series is in Volume 2, and that's Episode 1 with the food fight.
yes, like, even before I knew what RWBY was, I had seen that episode. And I didn't, like, the food fight in general. And I didn't know, at that time, forever ago, didn't know what it was. But I loved it. Like, just the way everything played out. So, that's just, once I saw, we actually watched through everything. And I was like, wait a minute. It's just became my absolute favorite. I'd love to see it animated, like, today, in today's animation style. Like, just amazing.
And also, Volume 2 introduced one of our favorite characters, and that being Zwei.
Yes.
It, of course, also has one of my favorite episodes, Burning the Candle. Not necessarily because of the Bumblebee implications, but it was the episode that finally gave Yang some much needed character development. Because remember, at the end of the day, with me being a Bumblebee shipper, that's all well and good. Yang is my favorite character. So, of course, I love anything that has to do with her. And
learning a major background.
yes, because even back in the day when Volume 1 and Volume 2 were the only volumes around, I preferred Volume 2 over Volume 1 because I felt like Yang just wasn't much of a character outside of what they pretty much established for her, being a wild girl and being RWBY's older sister. But that's all we knew about her, besides her semblance and all that. Volume 2 finally gave us more about Yang and why she really wanted to be a huntress, what was her motivations for a lot of things besides just watching over her sister, So I enjoyed that about Volume 2. I also enjoyed Mountain Glen, right? It's been so long since I've watched Volume 2, but that's what it was called. I think it was called Mountain Glen. I enjoyed that little bitty arc. Now, of course, Volume 2 has a couple of criticisms, one being the pointless dance arc, because a lot of people felt like that just brought unneeded drama with the whole Jean Weiss and Neptune thing, because it never went anywhere. So a lot of people felt like that was kind of a waste. Then you have the ending where Team Coffee shows up and just completely obliterates the Grimm, and to a lot of people that ruined the Grimm for several years because it made them look like just easy things to kill. Like, it just made them not much of a threat. Volume 3 helped fix that a bit, but I think later volumes really did a better job with the Grimm. So, yeah, Volume 2 just doesn't... It's got its moments, but it doesn't stick out, even in those earlier volumes. Because you got some things with Volume 1 that sticks out, and definitely with Volume 3. But Volume 2, it's Volume 2. Like, it's the middle ground. So, like, that seems to happen a lot of times. Like, if there's a trilogy, a lot of people love the first one, people love the third one, but it seems like the middle one. It's kind of like me and the prequel trilogy of Star Wars. I don't really care much for The Phantom Menace, though it's got some great stuff in it. I love Revenge of the Sith. Attack of the Clones, though, I just don't enjoy Attack of the Clones. Like, you can ask her. Whenever I watch Star Wars, I'm like, let's hurry up and get through Attack of the Clones.
It's like that with games, too. There's a lot of people that think that through the 13th trilogy.
A lot
don't care for 2.
Like, yeah. Well, I mean, there was a lot of people who really didn't like 13, but even people who liked 13, didn't care much for a lot of things in 13 too, and then a lot of people liked Lightning Returns. So
That's what I'm saying. Like it's for some reason it's always the middle.
well,
Like,
it's like that with Dragon Age. People love Dragon Age Origins. They love Dragon Age Inquisition, but a lot of people did not like Dragon Age 2.
I love to.
I think the characters in Dragon Age 2 were written a lot better than
I
Origins,
think that's
but
what made me fall in love with 2 so
the characters.
much. It's the characters for me made the game just amazing to me anyway. So
Yeah, so at the end of the day, Volume 2 just has that curse of being the second volume in the setup trilogy, pretty much. Next on our list, now, a lot of people hate this volume. To them, it is the worst Ruby ever got. It is the bottom of a lot of people's lists, but for us, yes, it's got issues, but for us, it's got some redeeming qualities, and that is Volume 5. Now, a lot of people did not like Volume 5. They thought the writing was all over the place. It had some pacing issues. You know, we learned that when the volume started, it wasn't even finished on the writing part of it. That's why you got a lot of scenes of characters just standing around not doing a whole lot. But Volume 5, you love because of the whole Raven story.
yes,
Because Jess just loves Raven, even though she's got issues. Her design, her attitude.
the more we learn about her,
She
so
screams
far,
badass.
Yes, the more we learn, we still don't know everything about her, but the more we've gotten into learning about her, the more I fall in love with the character because like there's so much more to her, and that also goes with learning. You know, clearly she obviously cares for Yang, and
in her
she's
own
in
way
her
a
own way,
little bit.
but she's using anger, cockiness, things like that to hide it all. So
Yeah.
that's when you know there's something more there, and it just kind of keeps you wanting. Okay, I need to know more, which I'm hoping one day. I'm hoping that they, since they finally released somewhat of a character sheet, maybe that means she's coming back.
You say that every volume.
I know. I can only hope.
Now, I've got to go back to Volume 2 real quick, because Volume 2 is where one of my favorite characters debuted, which is Neo. But one thing that I love about Volume 5 is, once again, I'm a huge Yang fan. And in a lot of ways, Volume 5 was a Yang-centric volume, because it focused a lot of time on her finding Raven, which she did. And that's one reason why I can't put Volume 5 on at the bottom, is because I love Yang. There's so many.
One of my favorite fights for Yang is in that one. Too.
Is that her and the bandits? Yeah, that's one of my favorite
She
fights
just
as
pretty
well.
much just
But I also love,
in.
the part of her at that gas station and punching that guy and then getting on Bumblebee and flipping her hair the way she does.
Hair, and apparently hair flips in animation are extremely difficult.
Which is why they probably haven't had her do it since then. But yeah, it was something I didn't, because you don't see that much in Ruby. You know, people flipping their hair, and I don't know, just the way she gets on there and flips her hair. It was such a Yang moment that's still one of my favorite moments, even though it's a very small part. But of course, we got some lore in Volume 5. I believe that is when we initially learned about Osmond and his multiple lives and all that. That was Volume 5, right? Because it's at the end of Volume 4 when Oscar arrives and Crow does his whole "I did it" thing, right? I don't think it was Volume 4. I think it was Volume 5.
I think so.
It's been so long.
That also was a great moment, too.
Yeah.
I did it! Falls off the couch. I think that moment gets me every time we see it, too.
Yeah. And, of course, Volume 5 is when Team RWBY finally all reunites. So that, I still get choked up watching that moment. So, yeah, even though Volume 5 has a lot of issues, it's still very enjoyable personally for us. So that's the reason why it's a little bit higher on our list than it is for most people. Next after that is Volume 3. Now, why is Volume 3 so low? really, I didn't know where to put Volume 3 because for the longest time it was my favorite volume. Because I like it when things get dark. You can ask her if it's a long running series that starts off lighthearted and then gets really dark when the plot really picks up. I love it. That's one of the reasons why when I was a kid, one of my favorite shows was Batman the Animated Series. It was a cartoon, but it dealt with a lot of dark stuff. It's the reason why I prefer Legend of Korra over Avatar The Last Airbender. Avatar The Last Airbender was a little too kid friendly for me because by the time it came out, I was older, but Korra dealt with so many dark issues. And, like, come on, book one ends with a guy killing himself and his brother. So, I mean, you'd never thought you'd see that on a Nickelodeon show.
Which is why it stopped being after a while.
Yeah, that's why it went on to the internet only. But Volume 3 is definitely where the series did a major turnaround. Which, I mean, that's why a lot of people see Volume 1 and 3 as kind of a prequel in a way because
it's the start of things to come. Much.
But Volume 3, I believe, is when Winter first showed up, who has quickly become one of my other favorite characters. I love Winter.
I think fight between her and Crow was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was good. The tournament was a great idea. I just wish I hate it when a tournament is announced in a series like this because you always know you're not going to see the end of it because they always get interrupted. I think original Dragon Ball is the last anime that I've seen where a tournament fully ends and you see the outcome of it. Because I remember getting...
About Yu Yu Hakusho.
Well, not a lot of people have seen Yu Yu Hakusho because I don't know how many because it was one of those Toonami animes that really got in popularity, but I've met people who have never heard of it. So yeah, you saw the Dark Tournament actually end. But besides that and Dragon Ball, usually 9 times out of 10, there's a tournament. You don't see the end of it because something always happens. The villain shows up or something like that. So
something just explodes and
yeah. So I was really, since Yang made it so far, I was really because I was a major Yang fan even by Volume 3. So of course, when she fought Mercury, I was wanting her to beat his butt and go on to win the tournament, but she got screwed and
framed.
Yeah, and then we had Pyrrha and Penny. We all know how that ended, so the tournament was pretty much over at that point. That's when the Grimm attacked. And of course, it does really start to build up the Blake and Yang and Adam story. So Volume 3 has definitely got its moments, but I think later volumes outclass it in some ways. Moving on. Next is Volume 4. Now, originally, Volume 4 was kind of low on my list for a lot of reasons. Kind of dumb reasons, really. Team RWBY is all separated in it. So
and that's a lot of people's reasons, though. So, it was a common thing.
Yeah, I don't like Volume 4 because Team RWBY's all split up, blah, blah, blah.
For so long. The whole thing, pretty much. So, but...
I love Volume 4 because I love how RWBY were able to take 4 distinctive stories. Even though Team RWBY is not together, they were able to take RWBY, Weiss, Blake, and Yang and give them each individual stories.
While blending it in together.
Yes, being able to do it within one volume. And also including Jean's story with Pyrrha and Ren and Nora's story about their background on it. They were able to include all of that into one single volume, and Volume 4 flows very, very well.
Yeah, it wasn't, you'd think that there's so much going on, you're going to get overwhelmed.
Yeah.
No, it just flowed and fit together so well, the way it was done with the separations, that it built the story up more.
And, also they were able to introduce all new characters without it feeling like too much. This is the first volume we saw Whitley. It's the first volume where we got to see Blake's parents. it's just, you know, and through a flashback we saw Ren's parents. You know, there's so much in volume 4, but it never really feels like it's too much. Which I think some later volumes kind of suffered from, because it seemed like, you know, they would introduce so many new characters that it would take away from the main cast. But volume 4 just does a really good job. Yes, it's during darker times when all of Team RWBY was separated, but rewatching it now, it needed to happen. Each of the four members needed to go through a character development phase on their own.
It kind of fits with the whole, you know, when you go back and rewatch and be like, okay, you know, this makes a lot more sense now.
Mm-hmm.
Like, that's why every so many volumes our list starts to alter and change. Because yeah, you go back and watch, like, and it's like, okay, this needed to happen this way. This really feeds to the story now.
Yeah.
So it just makes a lot more sense now. Yeah, like I said, that one was pretty low on our list before.
Yeah, because back when I first watched it, I thought it was kind of a slow moving volume.
It hits different now.
Yeah, it definitely does. Like, you've got RWBY still being typical RWBY, but still keeping like her issues to herself, which, you know, people are still saying that it's probably finally going to come to a head in volume 9. You've got Weiss's change from how she was in volumes 1 through 3 to how she is now. You've got Blake starting her journey of returning, you know, being more of herself than
who she was before Adam interfered.
And then you've got Yang recovering from losing her arm to Adam, but, you know, also going through some mental adjustment herself because she's suffering from PTSD, which would become a thing through volumes 4, 5, and 6. So yeah, that's one reason why I love volume 4 so much. Just the individual stories that changed the characters for the later volumes, because volume 4 is definitely where the series got to be more darker and more serious, while still retaining some its comedy and lighthearted moments.
It also does have, like you mentioned, Yang's PTSD. Well, it was also the twist of Blake's PTSD, seeing two different types presented the two different ways. So like, but Blake's, we started to see hers back in the starts of 3, like when her, you know, talking to Yang about the tournament, what happened, you know, trusting her and all that. We started seeing peaks of it there, but after 3 is when we really saw seeing the twist of the two different versions. Like, and I like that because it represents that everybody's PTSD, that if they have it, is different. So it was a nice thing seeing the different ways that they were starting to work on that. So
so our third favorite volume is RWBY Volume 7. There's a couple of reasons for this. For one, it was the first volume that we started reacting to, minus Chapter 1, which will be revisited in Retro RWBY whenever we get to Volume 7. But it's special that, but like, I don't know, like the Atlas arc so far has been one of my more favorite stories because, as I said earlier, I love darker storytelling. And even though Volume 7 has a lot of lighthearted moments at the beginning, toward the end, things are starting to go bad. And I loved the build-up. I loved just the anticipation that things are about to go bad. Plus, I know the new outfits for Atlas are not a lot of people's favorite. Personally, I love the Atlas arc outfits. I love RWBY's new hairstyle. I love the typical shonen, spiky-haired protagonist look for her. I've always loved Yang's bomber jacket look. I love Blake with the short hair because I like girls with short hair. And I liked Weiss's outfit because when I first saw it, it automatically made me think of like Atlas royalty meets military in a way, because a lot of people were theorizing that maybe she joins or something, like, because it looked very Atlasian high society when we first saw it. I really wished we could have saw some insight and like the clothing choices that they make. Like Ruby's is definitely still thematically the same. Like her outfit just changes.
I have a
differently.
love-hate with Blake's because making it was a pain in the ass.
But it's the first outfit you've ever placed in.
Yes, so I love the design, but I do love that. For me, like, if you're looking for a cosplayer standpoint, the complexity that it took for me to figure out how to create such, like, curved, odd seam lines. And so, I mean, I do love it, and it's a perfect winter cosplay. Like,
Yeah.
it is. It really is. And I do like the cat suit, though. Like, it just kind of fits, especially for colder weather. But the fact that it's sleeveless underneath the jacket, it just, I don't know, from, like, cosplay, it makes it comfy. But for me, if I see some type of cat suit in an anime or even in a movie or something, yeah, the long sleeves, I think I like the sleeveless look. It would help with movement, with the way Blake moves.
Yeah.
So I really did, hate the design. I don't know. I do like Ruby's too. So I love the way her skirt looks, like where it's cut open on that side versus the big fluffy things that she used to wear. Which I have a fondness for her one outfit though, because I love the fluffy skirts.
But yeah, Volume 7 also just had, like, the return of Penny, which was
amazing.
Yeah. Introducing her father. And one thing that I was worried about going into Volume 7 was, were we having too many new characters showing up? I was worried.
That was definitely a huge worry at the beginning, but they kind of handled it pretty well.
Yeah, because with the Aesops plus Robin and the Happy Huntresses, I was a little worried. A lot at
once, and then, but as the volume played out, they handled it really well. They didn't just throw all the characters at you.
Well, I was worried that it would take away from Team Ruby themselves.
That's what I mean. Like, they didn't throw them all at you in the midst of, not getting much Ruby, Team Ruby and Team Juniper, but it played out well. So it's...
Yeah.
I guess you could say when you introduce a lot of characters like that, that's a way to do it versus focusing just on them.
And it's very interesting because, no one knew how exactly the Aesops were going to go. And,
especially the number. The number, a lot of people, like, you really don't realize what, once you see the number and then you learn what happens, it's like, okay, when you go back and rewatch this again, 5, that number's wrong. And that's when you learn colors, numbers, things like that are huge in RWBY. So when you first see that, it doesn't click right away when you see 5 Aesops.
Yeah. But it's funny because, 7 and 8 are so connected, and watching certain members of the Aesops going through these character development changes from what they were at the beginning of Volume 7 to the end of Volume 8 is very interesting. I was actually shocked that the Aesops got more real screen time compared to the Happy Huntresses, which Robin is one of my all-time favorite characters now, even though we still haven't seen enough of her, in my opinion. But really,
well, I'm sure we'll get that at some point.
Yeah, but
they wouldn't have introduced her and the, at least the main, Happy Huntresses that she had with her. Yeah. They wouldn't have introduced them like they did if we weren't going to get some more of it somewhere.
But
we know that happens in RWBY.
Yeah. So moving on to our second. See, I'm trying to remember if there's anything about Volume 7 else that we need to say. I mean, I think episode 12, which we know what happens in that one, is still one of our most watched reactions. I think, why. But it also just had, Renora kissing, Nora pretty much confirming Bumblebee, Tyrion going on a massacre, which was very shocking. It just had... Another thing I love about Volume 7 is when everyone split up to fight the Grim and Mantle, and I got every single pairing correct. Because I guessed it would be Ruby, Penny, and Harriet. Weiss, oh crap, my brain is freezing on me. Weiss, Marrow, and Nora, I think it was. And then John, Wren, and Vine. Crow, Clover, and Robin. And Blake and Yang with Elm. And that's how it turned out. And I was like, I can't believe I got that right. I also got Penny becoming the Winter Maiden correct as well. So that was a real big major moment. Weiss putting her father under arrest, us finally getting to see Willow. It just had a lot of great moments.
I've had a couple things through the series, and I've gotten this. No, our number one is where mine was. My one big call was.
Okay, so moving on. Our second favorite volume is Volume 8. Now, for me, biggest reason why I love Volume 8 is that I think it trumps Volume 3 as the darkest volume in the series. And if Volume 3 was Empire Strikes Back, Volume 8 is definitely Revenge of the Sith. Everything that could go wrong goes wrong. From the very beginning with the heroes splitting up, kind of a united we stand, divided we fall kind of thing, to just Cinder all of a sudden being a great villain and undermining everything they tried to do. We got Cinder's backstory. We saw the change in both Emerald and Hazel that we kind of suspected was going to happen from the very beginning.
That's something else I called.
Yeah.
I was so happy.
Salem seeing Oscar for the first time.
Cinder, pretty much two-timing everybody.
Yeah.
Including Salem.
Yeah, it's just...
That's going to backfire at some point. And I'm just waiting for the day of that.
Ironwood descending more and more into madness. The Hound, man, that rocked the fandom for the longest. Like, that's one of my favorite parts of Volume 8 is the Hound stalking the halls of the Schnee Manor, and us getting the reveal that it's a silver-eyed person, and the dark music you hear in the choir singing. It was perfect.
That, and when you you'd mentioned earlier about that Ruby, like her keeping everything inside, and it's now started to come out. The Hound is exactly what's causing that to start happening. That's where we started to see that.
And then once she learns...
Well, yeah, but I meant where the peaks of it has started is there.
And then, of course, we have the second and sadly probably more permanent death of Penny, which, if you watched our reaction to the Volume 8 soundtrack, you'll know exactly how we feel about that. Winter becoming the Winter Maiden like she was supposed to, but Volume 7 is also my favorite because of what they did with Winter, her finally getting out from under Ironwood's thumb and doing what was right. And also, Winter is an amazing character.
Yeah, because I think another one of my favorite moments is when her and Weiss, are training and talking and that kind of thing.
Wasn't that Volume 7?
Yes.
That's Volume 7.
And Weiss planting the seeds of, doubt
into
and
her.
Realization for her. And it's like really thinking about, okay, and that's what we started seeing the turn. And it was just amazing to see that.
But, it was just, there was so many things that was exciting about Volume 8, and it being the longest volume, it just has a lot going that was just shocking week after week after week. And, I do get people's criticism that maybe too much goes on, especially for it being just 2 days long. But I don't know, for me it worked. And just, literally the volume ends with the death of Atlas, pretty much. Like, Atlas is gone. It's pretty much Atlantis now.
I was gonna say, yeah, everyone's making that connection of Atlantis.
Yeah. Then, of course, the reunion, Blake and Yang's reunion, Blake screaming when Yang got knocked off. But you knew the rest of Team RWBY was falling.
Yeah.
I think they made that a little too obvious, like with the opening and a lot of things. So I think that's why for me personally, I wasn't that shocked.
It was the order that we were wondering.
Yeah, because even though I think you gasped when Yang fell, but me, I was like, oh, Yang's the first one. Because that's why, even though Yang's my favorite character, I didn't jump to conclusions like everybody else that Yang was dead. It was like, no, I'm pretty sure the rest of Team RWBY's falling, so she's not dead. But I don't know, Volume 8 just hit a lot of notes for me that I just love. I don't mind the the heroes losing if there's a story reason for it or it makes sense. And in this case, it made sense. A lot of things went wrong for the good guys, and even though I still think the villains are going to implode from within because of Cinder and her ways, but
I know the further we'll get this will all make even more sense when we get there. Like, yeah, the villains, they took the win on this one, getting away and all that with, the staff and all that, but that's not gonna last. We know it's not. That's why, the way everything ended, it was, heartbreaking, but there's gonna be a payoff from it. So I'm eager to see what that's gonna be.
All right, so I'm guessing everybody knows what number 1 is, and that is, of course, Volume 6. And before everyone jumps to conclusions, no, it is not just because of Bumblebee. Volume 6 was amazing from start to finish. Volume 6, for one, was the first volume where we actually interacted with the fandom for the first time while watching it. I remember Volume 6 was so great in some areas that on Friday nights, my mind was going everywhere with what was going to happen, and I couldn't sleep.
My days at Dollywood, just learning so many, a lot of our friends that I worked with on our ride, they all watched too, and usually if we had to watch separated, I'd end up in the break room.
Because we weren't doing reactions then.
In the break room, I'd be sitting and I'd always be on break with at least one of them, and we'd watch it.
I'll never forget our friend Josh's reaction to the episode with Pyrrha's statue. What did he say? I cried all in my salad during lunch.
Oh yeah, I cried all in my salad.
But yeah,
I think I was with TJ. I think is what I was with when we watched it. So I knew exactly. As soon as I came back, Josh goes, "See."
But
so yeah, like there was days where I couldn't. I ended up working, but the fact that I had somebody to watch it with.
Well, I mean, I would watch it on my breaks as well, but I don't know. Volume 6, just like from the very beginning, from the intro, Rising, that is still to this day my favorite RWBY intro. It is such a rocking song. But the fight on the train, I always thought was amazing. Like the double scythe spinning that RWBY and Crow did, I always thought was amazing. The introduction of Maria, great character. The lore dump that we got about Oz and Salem, that was just like, I remember after that episode, I was like, this is RWBY that we're watching, right? Because it was such a different episode, like that you'd ever expected in RWBY. But
and it's also where we started learning and starting, getting like things that were said, like you can't defeat her or can't whatever. The thing is they made a thing. Okay, well, Oz can't defeat her. So
well, that was brought up in 7.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. It led to that. So it's like, it really got you thinking since it was so different. All that information, it's like, all right, I got to process all this now. Like, where it's going to lead for us later.
But also stuff like the apathy, still one of my all-time favorite little arcs of RWBY, because I love horror, and that was just amazing. I even considered writing my own creepypasta based on the whole apathy and Brunswick Farm thing, and like doing a narration of it. The return of Neo.
That fight was awesome.
Yeah, Cinder kind of going rogue against Salem in a lot of ways. Meeting Jean's sister and seeing that she's married to a woman and they have a kid, and how it was treated just like any kind of relationship by the other characters. It was amazing. Crow steering away from, like, Crow going from like one of the darkest parts that we've ever seen him to, by the end of the volume, giving up drinking. Even though she was a problematic character, Cordovan was such a funny character just because of her rivalry with Maria. I just love that whole entire thing. Hey, look on maybe she's dead.
Or over the radio, her crunching on the cashews.
Yeah.
And it just makes her so pissed off.
And, like, from little things that happen, like Oscar disappearing and everybody thinking that he got kidnapped, and nah, he just went shopping.
Yeah, that moment where he's standing right there and, like, the entire group just...
Which did irk a lot of people that seemed like more of Oscar's character development was happening off screen.
They made up for that after.
Yeah.
So...
But, Jean coming up with the plan to steal the airship, the scene of him at Pyrrha's statue, it's just like, they find ways to keep her around even after she's gone. And then the mysterious red-headed woman, which I'm pretty sure was Pyrrha's mom. But the fact that they just called her the red-headed woman, it's almost like there was supposed to be more there, and it's just not happened.
But that was also it was a great thing for Jean, and also, like, them keeping Pyrrha alive.
Yeah.
With him pretty much through all this as he goes. It's marking points as, every time we see her, it's another strength, up for him. Like, it's a more development for him. So, and it's showing that he's not dwelling anymore. He's moving forward because he knows she would want that.
Yeah.
And so seeing that for him, it was a very tearful moment.
And then, of course, Blake and Yang versus Adam. Still,
I called that from the beginning of the album.
Album?
Yeah, album. The beginning of the season.
Yeah. Still one of my all-time favorite fights because it was choreographed very, very well.
Outside of Bumblebee, the fight itself,
was very, very good, very emotional, very good, very well story told.
Yeah, especially with the comments that he'd say towards her to try to throw her off, and that's also where we had the huge connection to Beauty and the Beast. Yeah. That's where we really started seeing that, and that's when we go back from the beginning. Okay, well, that makes a lot more sense there for that, since we started learning about the fairy tales that are in RWBY, more of them, not just from what we developed, but that fight itself, just seeing the development of her semblance against his, which is essentially the same thing, only he just...
Well, it was great because this was the first really big major fight Yang had been in since she had those little training sessions with her father to fight smarter and all that, which, is addressed during the fight. I may not be faster, but I'm smarter than I was. Which was great just for Yang's story altogether. Yes, it really did mark the beginning of building Blake and Yang's relationship into a more romantic light, but besides that, it was such a great fight. The music was great with it.
Everything was just...
And then, of course, this was the last volume of the Mistral arc, which, the Mistral arc, hit a good high point with 4, kind of hit a low point with 5, but it ended on a great high point with Volume 6. To this day, a lot of people still think Volume 6 is still the best volume of the entire series. I kind of agree because it had a lot of great moments.
There was a lot of moments and a lot of great things that happened. So, yeah. That's why that one still sits up where it does for us.
Yeah. But you know, Volume 6 was the ending to an arc, where Volume 7 was the beginning of a whole new arc. So usually the end point is a much higher rated thing than, say, the middle or beginning.
That's why I'm thinking that
9 has potential to be great.
I think it
really
will
great.
be, because that's kind of the pattern that we're following here. Like,
Yeah.
1, 2, and 3.
Yeah,
2.
one and 2 are kind of, people have their extremes about it or not, where a lot of people love Volume 3.
And then you've got 4, 5, and 6.
Yes.
See, there's the pattern here. Like,
yeah.
Yes, I mean, like I said, all of them are great, but the middle ones are usually, the middle.
Yeah.
It's
Volume 8 might break the mold of that. We don't know yet.
That might be changing, but it's still like that middle ground that's going to connect. The first of the arc was good. Then you've got the middle that connects it all and usually has its moments, and then you've got the third one that usually it's supposed to be like.
And I do agree that Volumes 4 through 6 had the best poster art in the entire series. We've got 2 out of the 3. We still need to find 6. But so yeah, hopefully you lasted this long to see what our favorite one was. We've got a lot more RWBY content coming. One that's going to take some time because we actually want to do a lot of work for it is we are actually going to go back and look at Volume 6 and just talk about it, from the beginning to the end. RWBY Retro reactions are coming back. We'll probably have a new episode up next week. We've got a video that we want to do about Cinder because we've got a lot of theories about what's going to happen with Cinder.
Especially, I've got more forming even just by making this video because we've talked about.
Cinder is a very interesting villain in a lot of ways.
So
but
her end is coming, and we know it. And it's not just because I want her to finally stop. It's just fact. You can see it's going to explode from within at some point.
We better stop yapping because we want to get this under an hour. But check the description for everything else. As always, if you enjoyed it, please hit the subscribe button, hit the notification bell, click that like button, please. Leave a comment. Tell us what your least favorite volume is, because we always read the comments, even if sometimes we don't respond. So yeah,
I'm doing everything.
Yeah, but I try to respond to as much as I can if I have anything to say back. Sometimes I can't think of anything to respond to. But, so yeah, this was just a little fun look back at the volumes that are released so far. Hopefully we get some news on Volume 9 very soon. I am, thirsty for some. As always, guys, this is Kanan.
This is Jessie.
We love you all very, very much. Stay safe out there. Take care of yourselves, and we will see you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.